when I first went down there, I thought, this is the worst possible time that an oil spill could occur, in April. It was the beginning of the nesting season for the brown pelicans. They were feeding near shore and bringing fish back to their young in the nest. It was the beginning of the sea turtle nesting season, so these big females were hovering near shore and then hauling out onto the beaches to lay their own eggs. It was the time when the mother bottlenose dolphins bring their babies into the bays and bayous to get out of the path of the big hurricanes at the beginning of the season. I thought, what could be worse? This is crazy. I wish it had happened any other time. And then other people kept saying to me, oh, we're so glad this didn't happen at the end of August or early September, the peak of the hurricane season, or we'd all be in serious danger. And then other people would say, oh, I'm so glad this didn't happen in December, after those birds had migrated down here. And then we would be counting in the thousands dead loons and mergansers and Bonaparte's gulls and white pelicans as well as the browns. So they didn't want it to hit then. And I thought, February, maybe February would have been a good time for it to hit. And then I talked to the fisheries guys and they said, no, that's when the highly migratory species are coming near shore, fish feeding. We're talking about marlins and swordfish, and those would be greatly affected. And then it dawned on me there was not a good month to dump 210 million gallons of crude oil into the Gulf or into any body of water. That delicate ecosystem just cannot support that level of toxins. So I finally decided no. Along about the first part of June, the public's impressions of British Petroleum started to deteriorate. They did not feel that they were doing enough, both environmentally and economically. And so there was a pact among the residents down there that we would never capitalize BP. It would always be lowercase letters. Seems like a tiny thing, doesn't it? But it was a statement that was being made by the residents of the Gulf Coast that we didn't acknowledge them as a capital company. We thought we would boycott BP gas stations until we found out that they're franchises that are individually owned by local residents and small businessmen, and we would only be hurting our own community. And no one, just like after Hurricane Frederick or Ivan, no one's going to be naming their child with those two initials anytime soon. So no Brian Pauls or anything else that has BP. Oh, that's right. Poor Beatrice. Here's a sign at a BP station in Pensacola, Florida, that we thought was a little bit ironic. And these are double red flags. And you may know this system, but along the public beaches of the Gulf Coast, if they fly a green flag, it means it's safe. Go for it. Go surfing, swim in the water, swim all the way out to the horizon if you want to. A yellow flag means there's a rip current. A purple flag means there are jellyfish in the water, like Chrysora or Portuguese man-o-war. Brown flags means sharks are swimming in close. Red flags means it's dangerous surf. And double red flag, which I had never seen before in my life, means you may not get in the water. We will arrest you and haul you to jail. So it was illegal for the first time ever to get into the water. Now, my family had planned a family reunion for June on Dauphin Island, and we went forward with it. It was too difficult to change the time or to rearrange all those 65 people's schedules. So we did everything you can do on Dauphin Island without swimming, boating, fishing, or eating seafood. Which is not much. Well, we played a lot of bingo and dominoes, I guess. Here's a caution flag. These were posted all along the beach. Please avoid contact with oil. Failure to do so will spread contamination outside the affected area. And behind it there is a kayaker and a swimmer enjoying the surf. So it was up to you. What happened early on was that all of the public beaches and state parks were closed to the public. I went down thinking that I would help and found out pretty quickly that even as a marine biologist, I wasn't wanted to help. They weren't accepting volunteer help. You could not clean up the beach. You know, you couldn't take a bucket and a shovel and start cleaning the beach. You could not help an oiled wildlife if you weren't a contracted wildlife rehabber with BP. You couldn't take your boat and just launch out into the Gulf and start helping. It was very controlled and restricted, and if you tried to do anything that wasn't allowed, the National Guardsmen would come up and have a chat with you. So the only thing I could be was a witness, to try to take pictures, to try to interview people, to try to talk to the residents and tourists that were there. And this is what the oil looked like when it finally hit Florida in mid-June. It hit it, and it hit it hard. And some of my favorite places, from the Alabama state line to Panama City, got their first taste of oil. And that's when Florida got excited about working on the oil spill. Before, they were like, yes, this is serious, we're concerned. And then when it hit their tourism, the two biggest industries along the Gulf Coast are tourism and commercial fishing. And for the first time in 68 years, we did not have the deep sea fishing rodeo out of Dauphin Island. It didn't even stop during World War II, but it stopped this year. There was no place to fish. And then the oil came up on Gulf Shores beaches, and it shut everything down. There was, you couldn't find seafood in the restaurants. You couldn't go down to the beach. All the beaches were closed. You weren't allowed to take your boat out into the Gulf. So there was very little you could do. You could still go hang out at the track, you know, or go play putt-putt golf or something like that, but no beach recreation. This is Perdido Key with the moose on the beach, the oiled moose. And this gentleman down at the West Beach of Alabama took his little gnome, set it on the beach, and took a picture of it each day from June 1st through August 31st. So here's June 25th. It looks pretty good, right? And here's 2 days later when the oil had reached his gnome. And he's got this on a website, so you can go and see how the oil spill progresses for that west end of Alabama each day of the spill. Here's Winsel's Oyster House. They serve a lot of oysters, fried, stewed, and nude, but not crude. And this is a worship service that took place on the beach. Hurricane Alex was heading our way, and 25,000 people came down to the Gulf to pray for the Gulf. And then Jimmy Buffett arrived, and he had a free concert there in Gulf Shores on the beach and raised lots and lots of money. And of course, people stayed in the hotels, they ate in the restaurants, they bought t-shirts in the gift stores, so it boosted the economy. He also gave $16 million to the effort, and part of that effort was purchasing wildlife rehab boats that went along the coast, and when they found oiled wildlife, they could bring them right up on the boat, use the Dawn detergent to clean them, and haul them back to the rehab facilities to get them healthy again. So this was the prevailing feeling along most of the Gulf Coast. On May 29th, I went with this gentleman, Tom, who's the head research biologist at the University of South Alabama, and the gentleman on the right, who's the head researcher for the University of Southern Mississippi. And we took our kayaks and we paddled the entire length of the Mississippi coast, looking for the oil, looking for oiled wildlife, trying to figure out how the coast of Mississippi was going to be able to handle this oil spill. These are unemployed commercial fishermen who were hired immediately at great expense to BP to ride up and down the complete coast of Mississippi, checking the integrity of the booms. Now, the yellow booms are the big ones. Those are the ones that are out in the Gulf. And then the orange booms are the smaller ones. Those are the ones along the entrances to the bays and bayous. And then the blue booms are the ones that are back on the back marshes, the little ones. We call those the boomalitos. And they were supposed to protect the marshlands and grasses back on the back part. Now, in my personal opinion, this is about the best use of a boom of any others. Tom and Russ are taking a nap there on that one. So we did not see any oil or oiled wildlife on May 27th. By June 25th, 1 month later, this is what the island that we were walking along looked like. Horn Island, part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, pristine, 10 miles offshore, gorgeous white sand and gorgeous green water, and it has had oil on it ever since. Here's a band of oil underneath the Gulf State Park fishing pier there in Alabama, and it started coming in ribbons. We did get a chance to fly over the coast. You could not fly over the oil spill area, but we flew over the coast and got pictures of the oil. It's lurking like sharks right off the shore there. You can see the tourists walking along the beaches and then the oil ready to come in. And that's what happened. Each time a storm came up, more oil was brought into the shore. Ribbons of it off the Louisiana coast. Now, here's the U.S. Air Force spraying their dispersants over the oil spill area. Fishermen deploying booms, over 2 million miles of booms were deployed. And what happens is that this boom just rests on the surface. So if the wind picks up a little bit, it'll bring the water and oil over the boom. If any oil sinks, it'll go under the boom. And if a big storm comes, it'll just take the booms and they'll end up in the high dunes or in the marshes. So my opinion of booms is a huge waste of money and time, but I think they had to try something. So they put these booms around every island, every beach, miles and miles and miles of booms. And the boom storage depots were these giant warehouses in Mobile, Alabama. The booms are stuffed with absorbent material. Some of them, the same material that's in baby diapers, disposable baby diapers. Some of them had like a fiberglass kind of material in it. Some had human hair or pet hair. And so throughout the country, beauty salons and dog grooming salons started collecting the hair and shipping it down to Mobile and New Orleans, where it was stored in warehouses. And the motto became, save the Gulf, get a haircut. So you had all these places where people could bring the hair that was shipped down there by the truckload. You had all of these places where the booms were stored. And then I go out, and here's a photograph that I took of booms underneath Perdido Pass, for those of you who are familiar with the Alabama Point Bridge. Not working. Not helping the situation at all. Here's some individuals took the booms and started using them to make skimming devices to help skim the oil off the surface. A vessel of opportunity is an out-of-work recreational or commercial fishing boat that has gotten a contract with BP to go out to a certain zone and collect oil off the surface. When they first started skimming, they were skimming day and night, particularly right around the oil spill area. And what happened was they were catching dolphins and sea turtles in their skimmers, dragging them over to the burn barges, and accidentally burning those animals as they were trying to get rid of the oil. So they told them they could only skim during the daytime so that they could see what they were doing. And some of my colleagues at Gulf World in Panama City, the Gulfarium in Fort Walton Beach, Marine Life, and the Institute for Marine Mammal Studies in Gulfport, Mississippi, started going out in fast boats in the Gulf and driving the dolphins to the south and the east away from the skimmers so that they wouldn't be caught in them. It's actually called marine mammal harassment, but it was what they had to do to get those dolphins moving out of the area. This is a staging area. There were 67 staging areas along the Gulf Coast, and 19 of those are still in place. They closed down the Gulf State Park. They brought in all this equipment, and in this picture you can see the air-conditioned circus tent. That's the command headquarters. Portable toilets, ATVs and mules, bags, boxes and boxes of plastic bags, and these big strobe lights for working at night.